All right, I told you earlier on, welcome back to the program, that I will be showing you what those two top contenders in the Rivers State governorship election which held earlier this year. Let's take a listen to what is said about this election. Are you desperate to be governor of Rivers State?
Why should I be desperate? Politics is not a do-or-die affair.
Should you lose this election, what would you do?
I will support.
Support who?
Whoever that emerges.
Even the opposition, the APC, that,
I don't see APC
that is strongly opposed.
I don't think. You see, I've always told you, there is not even any likelihood of me losing the election. Go and check the statistics. Go to the grassroots. Why do Nigerians like those who come out on pages of newspaper and television saying, look, there's too much corruption? Because they know. How can a governor come and tell a state that has so many boundaries that they are going to kill mosquitoes and there will not be mosquitoes again in the state? And you spend 6 billion naira. The Rivers State government, the governor collects 800 million naira every month as special impress. Calculate 800 million naira into a year, it gives you 9.6 billion. That's it into 4 years. Take like 40 billion in 4 years.
There are 3 key reasons. One is that Rivers people yearn for a continuation of the change regime started by Governor Chibuike Amechi, and to the best of my knowledge, will represent that change. A second fact is that we have shown that we have capacity to unite the people behind a cause, and that we're peaceful. If there's anything Rivers people are yearning for today, is a united, peaceful, and prosperous Rivers State, and we have shown that we have the capacity to engender that in our state.
So are you desperate to become governor of Rivers State?
Certainly not.
So should you lose this election, what would be your response?
Well, I don't see the possibility of my losing the elections for having gone around Rivers State, having had conversations with people, having felt the pulse of the people. However, because I acknowledge the fact that power comes from God, should I lose the election, I'll return to something else. I will understand it to mean that this is not what God wants me to do at this point in time.
Well, the two candidates never believed they would lose the election. Well, someone lost, someone won. But this time around, the whole process is not over until it is over. So they say, well, when we see all of these processes over and over again, maybe I might bring together a story which will put all of these issues in perspective. Let's quickly move away from this issue for a moment, and let's move into some other issues that have to do with the issue of the electoral process in Nigeria. And what happened was that in the past week, we saw the Council of State come out from their deliberations, and what they came out with was that a new INEC chairman will emerge with 5 new national commissioners. Well, let me show you their names and exactly what they stand for this time around, where they're coming from. Well, the new INEC chairman, as proposed by the Council of State, is Professor Mahmood Yakubu from Bauchi State. He's been proposed as chairman of INEC, and also we have Mrs. Amina Zakari from Jigawa State, from the northwestern region of the country, Dr. Antola Attahiru Jega from Kogi State, north central region, Alhaji Baba Shatima Afo from Borno State, the northeastern region, Dr. Muhammad Mustafa Edo from south, and Mr. Shoyebi Adedeji Solomon, Ogun State, in the southwestern region of Nigeria. This man, Ambassador Lawrence Owuruku from Abia State, is from the southeastern part of Nigeria. I understand he has about 2 years more on his tenure, and he's going to stay, making 6 of them. There should naturally be about 11 national commissioners, okay, in the seat. And constitutionally, before any decision can be made, they should be able to form a quorum. These are some of the issues that are being generated. But who is this new man that will be taking over the affairs of INEC? Let's take a look at who this man really is. Professor Mahmood Yakubu. Well, he's a professor of political history and international studies. He's also known to be a former executive secretary of TETFON, you know that, and also was the assistant secretary, finance and administration at the 2014 confab. Very brilliant man, so they say. He bagged a first-class degree in history from the then University of Sokoto, now known as Usman Danfodio University of Sokoto State. Now, this gets us talking. Professor Attahiru Jega is a man everybody has talked about. This is a new crop of people that will be led by Professor Mahmood Yakubu. What do you make about this new crop of people that will be taking charge of INEC, especially the man that will be at the end of affairs? Is this shoe so big? Do you think that it fits the bill?
Well, I think on a very light mood, people are beginning to feel that professors have a way of doing magic when it comes to leading the electoral body of the country. We know what was going on before Jega. When Jega came in, he was a professor, he's a professor of political science, and he made certain innovations into the political arena. And that is why observers, like our man who just spoke, will agree that 2015 election was the best that Nigeria ever produced. Now we have another professor of history and international relations and politics, did you say?
Political history
and then he's coming to hold the leadership of INEC. Given that platform, what immediately comes to mind is that Nigerians will be very comfortable because of the tradition, okay? That there is nothing to worry about, especially again, given that the returning officers that were used during Jega's period were all professors. If they were not vice chancellors of certain universities, they would be heading certain public institutions. And because they were career people, because they were people who held their integrity more than material value, they were able to prove beyond reasonable doubt that they represented the interest of the public. And that is the same thing I think the Council of State is trying to put in shape here. But having said that, the appointer is always, again, like the man who plays the piper and who at the same time dictate the tune. One of the reasons you will have a Rivers State governor contend the verdict of the tribunal is that if elections had to hold again under another INEC leadership appointed by a particular president, there may not be objectivity. And that may not be right or wrong. It is only politically natural to feel so.
All right, one major issue that's been raised when these appointments were read is the issue of the ethnic spread, and of course where the head of the new head will be coming from. Of course, we know Professor Jega is from the northern region of the country, and a lot of people are saying, again, we're having this. A lot of people have talked about President Buhari's recent appointment into his kitchen cabinet and how most of them are from the northern region. Do you think this is an issue?
I was actually coming to that. I wanted to lay a background for what I wanted to say. You see, jocularly, people will say Buhari came in and promised us that he was going to get the best hands to handle Nigeria, not knowing that best hands were his best friends and best cousins and best brothers. This whole idea of North being in place of leadership is, again, as I said, raising suspicions from the people. I am not being declarative that intention is bad. I am talking about suspicion. And this is the political interpretation of it. Again, the law does not say that the chairman of INEC must come from west or south or east. But that is the law. Law is an instrument in the hand of politics. But when you take that legal position, what does it generate from the politics?
All right, just a moment. Let me go to our Abuja studio where Mr. Clement Zonwaka is still with us, very much with us. Tell me, with all of these that we've seen, again, I know one major thing that will be on your mind as an observer, someone who is an expert in monitoring elections, and of course, a lot of people in Nigeria, some of the legacies, the card readers, the permanent voter cards, and the card readers, and of course, the delimitation and a whole lot of issues that Professor Jega led in its time, and people will be asking questions. How will these legacies be maintained? And to you, what do you make of this new man, Professor Mahmood Yakubu?
Thank you. I think you're right. Certainly, there are concerns about the legacy of Professor Attahiru Jega, and it's not just a legacy, it's really exceeding the legacy that he bequeathed. There's no magic about professors heading INEC. I don't think that that is necessarily a qualification that should underline the leadership or headship of INEC. In the past, we've had justices of the retired judges heading the Electoral Commission. So it's not really what the qualification is, but the experience. If you look at Professor Jega, his antecedents speak for themselves. He was part of the Justice Uwe's Electoral Reform Committee, and being part of that committee put him in very good stead to understand what was needed to move the nation forward. He examined, together with Justice Uwe's and several of the other members of that reform committee, what was important and what failed, and what was the disaster that the 2007 elections was. And from that, he began to build and address the challenges that the 2007 elections represented. And it was from that perspective that he, as very experienced with elections, was able to understand how to go forward with things. I think that looking at the appointments that have been made, we have at least 2 persons that, or in fact 3 persons in that commission who have a very good understanding of election itself. I think it's very good news that we have Amina Zakari, who is currently acting as chairman of the commission, remaining in the commission or being nominated to remain in the commission. We do have Professor Antonia Simbine, who also has been very involved in the electoral process. We do have the former resident electoral commissioner from Lagos, who has also been nominated. So when you look at the commission itself, you do perhaps have people who have very good experience. I think, again, looking at the question of where the chairman comes from, unfortunately, I haven't had the privilege of meeting with him, so I really can't discuss much about him because I really don't know him. But it wouldn't really matter at the end of the day if where the chairman of the commission comes from, if you find a person of integrity. Don't forget that Professor Jega conducted 2 general elections, which had 2 of the major contenders running in those 2 elections as well. Current President Buhari and former President Jonathan ran elections in 2011. President Buhari lost, then President Jonathan won, and then 2015 it reversed.
Okay.
So it's so much a question where the chairman comes from. I think it's the issue of integrity of who heads that commission.
All right.
And that
just a moment now. Just a moment now. Let me show our viewers. We have a governor waiting in on this matter. Well, I caught up with the governor of Kwara State, and I was asking him about this issue, and of course, the issues surrounding the ministerial nominees. And these are some of his responses to my questions.